you guys? Thank you for coming. This is Bear. I'm glad you're here. So this probably won't be a very long video. I felt kind of like I needed to get one out before I left. Tomorrow morning, first thing, I'm taking my son Odin out camping for the first time. Me and my buddy Mark, we're going to go have, we're going to take Odin out and have a little boys' day, a boys' week camping. So that'll be fun. This is the first big outdoor excursion I've had with just my son and my friend, and it's going to be fun. Have some dad time. Anyway, so I thought I would pop in and do a video real quick before I left. In esoteric circles and occult circles, there is a guy who is really controversial, to say the least. He goes by the name of Aleister Crowley. And if you spent any time online or any time in any kind of esoteric study at all, you come across his name. He's one of those guys that are pretty... he's an interesting guy, we'll just say that. A guy I highly respect and is a personal hero of mine, Mark Passio. He said once in one of his lectures that the best way to approach Crowley's work is to do as he says and not as he does. Because he'll say don't do something and then we'll immediately go do it. I'm not sure that I entirely agree with Mark Passio in this particular description. I'm not totally on board with a lot of Crowley's stuff. With that said, there is a quote that is often said all the time, especially by people in left-hand path traditions and dark occult traditions. At some point, I probably should do a video on what a left-hand path and right-hand path is. It's terminology, is all it is. Anyway, and the quote is, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, end quote. So the beginning of the quote is, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, end quote. And we see this come up over and over and over again. And people, I saw it on the new Netflix show Sabrina. That is a really dark show. That really disturbs my spirit. But they quoted it in that show. They quote it everywhere. A lot of people have it tattooed on their bodies even. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. But like most esoteric sayings, the obvious way of reading it isn't the right way of reading it. And the reason it's so popular, and the reason people, I think, almost deliberately read it wrong, is because it fits into the classic satanic worldview. So classic Satanism is self-worship. A lot of people make the mistake of believing that Satanism is the worship of the externalized devil, the externalized Christian devil. It's not really. Actually, Satanism is the worship of ego, where yourself is the divine being and everyone else is second to your will. And it's kind of a sexy prospect, being able to do what you want. Morals are pretty arbitrary, relative even, and you just do whatever you feel is right. For some reason anyway, there we go, that's better. And that's classic Satanism. And do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Well, that is, that fits right into that fantasy. But that assumes you're reading it wrong, and almost everybody does. The true reading of that, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law, is actually what you want in your spirit is to do the law. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. It's saying the whole of the law is should be what you want to do. You see how it's read differently? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law is actually saying, do what thou wilt should be what the law dictates, what natural law dictates. And most people don't see it that way. It was kind of cool. My cousin Colton and him and I came to it, I think, at the same time. We came to it at the same conclusion at the same time, which was kind of fun. It kind of tells you you're onto something. But it's one of those things that are, how do I say this without sounding like a pompous, full of myself, elitist guy? I don't, because I'm none of those things. I guess you could say, I don't know if there's any way around it. Basically, for those who aren't initiated into a lot of these philosophies and stuff, it's very easy for them to read it wrong. I guess that didn't sound as elitist as I thought it did in my head. Because the way mystery schools think about things and the thought patterns that they have and stuff, they're, I don't know, thought patterns is even the wrong way of putting it. I must be tired. I think that's what's going on. I think I'm just tired. I didn't even bother really sitting at my computer. But yeah, basically, when you get into the higher levels of some of this stuff, like any type of schooling you go through, there's a modus operandi that is used when approaching problems and looking at the esoteric worldview and the language that it uses. Everyone knows how to read it, but the problem really actually is that if you haven't been in the school and you haven't been initiated and you don't have that knowledge already, some of these things are really cheeky and they're really sneaky. And if you don't know the language, you're going to be led down a blind, and that is essentially what this is. It's a blind. Oedipus Levy. Eliphas Levy. I can never pronounce his first name very well. I could even be saying his last name wrong. One of the. No. It wasn't him. It was in the Kabbalion. He said that in the Kabbalion, those who. There are certain people who are uninitiated to whose words this whole book is nothing but words. That's a paraphrased reading of it because I don't know it off the top of my head. But basically, it's just words. If you haven't been initiated, some of this stuff is just meaningless. It's either meaningless or you're not going to get the correct meaning out of it. So yeah. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law is read wrongly by almost everybody. And it's with people like him. Levy was kind of the same way. You have a lot of these forefathers of esoteric wisdom who are a little bit on the creepy side. With a lot of those guys, if you go into it knowing that they're just people, and you very carefully tease out the truth and abandon the rest, there is a lot of what people don't realize is just because something is dark and evil doesn't mean that it doesn't contain wisdom. It doesn't contain truth. And that's the tricky bit, right? You can absolutely get wise and ascend, in a sense, by going down a left-hand path. There is wisdom there. If it didn't do anything for anybody, it wouldn't have been a popular worldview. They would have moved on to something else. There's absolutely stuff to gain by going down the wrong path. But that doesn't mean it's right, though. It doesn't mean that it's good and we should do. It just means you can do it. And if you are very careful and you know what you're doing, you just exercise discretion, I guess you could say, and understand that the truth exists there. It just, I don't know. Just be careful, I guess. Anyway, like I said, I'm tired, and I apologize for that. And like I said, quick recap, going away for a while, for about a week, 5 days, with my son Odin and my buddy Mark, and I imagine I'll have a video ready sometime after that. And do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law is read wrong. It's actually saying what you want should be the law. The law should be what you want to have. And all right, I love y'all. Bye bye.